Are you currently having a hard time building out account servicing workflows or maybe some other types of workflows in your CRM and Wealthbox? Well, if that is you, today in our video, we're going to show you how to start building out those workflows so you can really start to get into your CRM and start utilizing it to the best of its ability. And we'll also show you a real life example here for an address, phone, and email change with some best practices tips to follow along. Hey, it's Matthew. If you're looking to build workflows that actually work and help your firm scale and grow, please feel free to grab your copy of Mastering Strategies to Avoid the RA Disaster. The link will be in the description below. And if you're serious about building workflows, processes, and automations for your firm, let's connect. Schedule an intro call with us using the link in our description below, and we'd be more than happy to get to know you and your firm. All right, now back to the video. So in our example today, we have Joe Schmo pulled up in our CRM system. And if you want to follow along with us and maybe take some notes as we show you how this account servicing workflow works, please feel free to do so as we go through the video. We have our account servicing workflow here. Again, the example that we're providing you is an address, phone, and email change. But when we talk about account servicing and maybe even client servicing, we're talking about the things that you do for your existing clients. Like other examples of account servicing workflows can be beneficiary updates. Maybe you regularly take distribution requests or maybe withdrawal requests. And those are things you should definitely consider and really consider if the size of your team is starting to grow and really start to grow fast, you need to start building out workflows and processes so that your team can actually follow a similar process so that each client gets the same type of client experience. So now looking at our workflow here, we have a couple of different steps that we have set up in Wealthbox. So again, the way that Wealthbox workflows work are you have multiple steps and you can also build out subtasks within each step here. But in our example today, we're just going to show you something that is pretty simplified so that you have a sequential workflow that kind of follows step 1, step 2, and then so on. So step 1 has to be completed before you get to step number 2, and then getting into step number 3. That's what we mean by sequential workflows. So when we talk about building workflows in our Wealthbox CRM, there's a lot of different factors that we need to consider, but here are the main ones that are really important to your firm and the ones that you should consider when starting to brainstorm out these workflows for your firm. The first one is definitely having a brief description under what this is supposed to be accomplishing. Now, these workflows can touch multiple people within your firm. Maybe it starts off with the lead advisor kicking it off, then you send it off to a CSA, then it touches a lead advisor again, or maybe an associate advisor, and then ultimately gets back and kicked back to the CSA. And that could happen within step 1, step 3, step 7. So really when it lands into someone's task pipeline, or just really when someone sees that in their to-dos for today, you want to make sure that it is clear and they have a clear example of what we are trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do for the client. In our example here today, we just put a couple of sentences just describing what an address or phone or email change looks like and what we're supposed to be doing and why we're doing it for our clients. So we'll show you here another important piece when building out workflows are actually the names of the steps. When I'm in my tasks and my to-dos, I want to make sure that I have a clear high-level understanding of what needs to be accomplished and where it needs to be accomplished. So this first task here, I know that in Wealthbox on the contact card, for this specific contact that it's related to, our client Joe Schmo, I need to update his client information. So if I click specifically into this task, I can get granular with another description about what information I'm supposed to be updating, as well as an SOP or a standard operating procedure. And think about these as these steps that need to happen, like step number 1, 2, 3, and these are buttons 1, 2, and 3 that I'm clicking to accomplish updating the client's information. Now, this may be drawn out. This may be very tedious to do. So if you're finding that it is easier to maybe just record yourself and maybe just do like a screen share, then by all means, we always suggest that firms do that. Loom is a great utility tool that we know a lot of firms utilize to document their standard operating procedures. So instead of here you seeing steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, this could just be inserting a link or a video link, knowing that, hey, if I have a team member, maybe I haven't done this account servicing thing in a while, I just need a little refresher on how to get this thing done. That can be as easy as a 2-minute video explainer, just living there so that the firm and everyone at the firm understands how to specifically update the client's information at my firm. Now, at another financial advisory firm that you worked at previously, the process was probably different. So you definitely want to document the way that you do things at your firm, because it's going to benefit you and how you actually provide the same level and high level of client service to your clients. And then the other pivotal thing that we talk about when building out a workflow is going to be the outcomes. Now, in this case, when I launch this workflow, and let's say in our example, a client calls in, they say, hey, I'm going to be moving addresses soon, or I got a new email. I know that I'm going to launch this workflow, and the only outcome that can really happen here is, well, I just need to go into Wealthbox and update the contact. So we went ahead and build out the outcome here to say, hey, this thing is complete. And I'm giving just a brief description onto what is being done. So, hey, Wealthbox records are updated. Now, if I complete this step and I select our only outcome here and I'll submit that, then I have my next task that'll launch for me. And I'll have a update the client's information, not in Wealthbox anymore, but now it's going to be in my financial planning software, where maybe I want to make sure that their address is always kept up to date, because that is directly tied to their net worth. And again, it's going to be the same thing when you're building out this step. You want to include a description as well as the standard operating procedure, or the SOP, so that people understand at your firm, hey, I may need to update the address in this one place, but I don't need to update it in the advanced plan or maybe somewhere else. So we definitely want to make sure that this information is up to date. You're keeping an SOP on file, and hey, those things change. You may find that one day I need to update this SOP. That can be as quick as shooting another 2-minute Loom video and then updating the workflow with that new link. It could be as easy as that to make sure that your processes are evolving with your firm's growth. So next, let's say that we've updated the financial planning software and the client gave us their address. We updated Wealthbox already. Now we're going to be moving on to the actual account servicing when we go into preparing the documentation. Let's say at the custodian, we need to get some signatures and we need to make sure that their address gets updated, and that's the only way to do it. So we always want to have a step to make sure that we are preparing the documentation. Then we have a step to actually sending the documentation, whether that's an e-signature, a physical form. You just want to make sure that you're keeping track of the different steps, because quite honestly, a CSA might pick up a task, you might pick up this task, and you're preparing the paperwork, and then someone calls into the office and it kind of throws you off. So if you think that just by creating a task and just clicking off something that says, yep, I created the paperwork, I did the send out, because that should be the same step, you may want to reconsider that, because your day is definitely filled with distractions. So at any given point, you could be prepping the paperwork, and you might right as well be clicking that button to send the paperwork, but someone calls in and your attention is drawn elsewhere. So that's why we want to make sure that these steps are essentially built out so that you can keep track of, hey, like I was preparing the paperwork, I just didn't get to finishing it. So then you have that reminder here to actually finish preparing the paperwork. Now, going on to, let's say we've prepped the paperwork and then we've actually sent it out. This is where you can have an outcome that essentially says, hey, I need to make sure that I follow up with this client to make sure that the paperwork has been signed. Now, internally, Your SOP may be to look at the e-signature platform like a DocuSign, and it's to see, did they sign the paperwork already? And if they did, cool, I can just skip past this step and I don't actually need to do anything, and I just need to make sure that it updates at our custodian. Now, if in that example they hadn't signed the paperwork and you do need to follow up, this is where we would suggest using an action item within a workflow. So you can essentially build out a template of an email, and it can be as simple as this. It can just be like, hey, we're just reaching back out here because we sent you some paperwork directly from our custodian to update your address, to update your email. Let us know if you have any questions, essentially just to keep them honest, to make sure that you're keeping the ball rolling internally, as well as the client knows you're on top of them. Now, where we have seen a lot of success with firms building these out is you essentially have this step built as just a reminder so that you can get past it. And then after you send that initial reminder, you can always keep this step active, or you can build a second outcome here that essentially says not complete, restart step. So really depending on how you want to build out these, we've seen a lot of firms have success with just keeping comments here so that like, hey, every 2 to 3 days, I'm going to be checking on this client so that once you send out this notification, I'm just going to push this individual step of the workflow out another 2 to 3 weekdays, so I know, hey, I'm keeping on top of them, and every time I reach out to them, I'm going to be leaving a comment, while also utilizing the action item that's directly built into the workflow step. So let's say the client has signed the paperwork, and now what we're going to be doing is we now have to keep our custodian in check, because we know sometimes we send paperwork off their way and the processing team just doesn't get something done in time, or maybe they just completely miss it. So this is a great opportunity to put in your custodian, and then also, again, just that high level of what's supposed to be accomplished for this task, to say, hey, I need to check on this paperwork for this client, Joe Schmo, to make sure his address actually gets changed. We would suggest, maybe pushing that out a day or two after the e-signature has been completed. And then finally, to provide a very high-level client servicing touch point, you want to email or maybe even call the client back just to let them know that their address, phone, or email has been updated internally in your systems, as well as at the custodian on their account, so that they will be receiving the correct paperwork, the updated emails, and the correct phone calls to their new information. Hey, thanks for sticking around towards the end of the video here. We know that you found this content very helpful. If you're also still struggling with brainstorming ideas for workflows that you should be building out at your firm, or maybe you just don't know the first steps to really take to making your CRM the best of its ability, please feel free to schedule an intro call with us. We have our link in the description below. We'd be more than happy to talk about those challenges that your firm is facing, and really just see how you can elevate your firm's experience, not just for your team, but for your clients as well.